Indianapolis sharks. On July 30th, 1945, the heavy cruiser USS Indianapolis was sailing unescorted through the Philippine Sea. The ship and her crew of 1,196 men had just completed the most classified mission of the war, secretly delivering the core components of the atomic bomb Little Boy to Tinian Island. Captain Charles McVeigh commanded the vessel. 12 minutes after midnight, Japanese submarine I-58 fired 6 torpedoes. 2 struck the starboard side, detonating the forward magazine and rupturing fuel tanks. The ship sank in 12 minutes, trapping 300 men below decks. Roughly 900 men made it into the water with almost no lifeboats. Because the mission was top secret, no distress signal was confirmed received. The Navy did not notice the ship was missing for 4 full days. Within hours, oceanic whitetip and tiger sharks began circling. Over 4.5 days, an estimated 150 men were killed by sharks, the deadliest shark attack in human history. Delirium from dehydration caused men to abandon life jackets and swim toward imagined islands. On August 2nd, Lieutenant Wilbur Gwynn spotted survivors purely by chance during a routine patrol. Rescuers pulled 316 men from the water. Approximately 879 were dead. McVeigh was court-martialed for hazarding his ship, received hate mail for years, and died by self-inflicted harm in 1968. Congress posthumously exonerated him in 2000. The bomb his ship delivered was dropped on Hiroshima 7 days after the sinking. Chichijima cannibalism. On September 2, 1944, 9 torpedo bombers from the carrier USS San Jacinto were shot down over Chichijima Island in the Bonin Chain, roughly 600 miles south of Tokyo. 20-year-old Lieutenant Junior Grade George Herbert Walker Bush bailed out earliest and was rescued by the submarine USS Finback. The other 8 pilots reached the ground alive. All 8, Floyd Hall, Marv Mershon, Warren Earl Vaughn, Jimmy Dye, Grady York, Glenn Frazier, Jimmy Darden, and Donald Ross, were captured, beaten, and tortured. Major General Yoshio Tachibana authorized execution by beheading and ordered the consumption of flesh. Major Sueo Matoba hosted officers' dinners at which human thigh meat and livers were cooked with soy sauce. 4 of the 8, Hall, Mershon, Dye, and Vaughn, were confirmed cannibalized. No remains were ever recovered. After Japan's surrender, a military commission at Guam tried 5 officers. Tachibana was hanged. The story was classified for decades, until journalist James Bradley published Flyboys in 2003. Bush, who became the 41st president, did not know the full details until Bradley's research surfaced. Kolbe's sacrifice. Father Maximilian Maria Kolbe, a Polish Franciscan friar, was arrested by the Gestapo on February 17, 1941, and transported to Auschwitz. At the end of July, a prisoner from Block 14 went missing. SS Deputy Commander Karl Fritsch ordered 10 men condemned to death by starvation in Block 11's underground bunker. Polish soldier Franciszek Gajowniczek was selected and began weeping for his wife and children. Kolbe, age 47, stepped forward and asked to take the man's place. Fritsch agreed. The 10 men were locked in cell 18, a windowless chamber with no food, no water, and no sanitation. Over 2 weeks, the men slowly died. Guards reported Kolbe led the survivors in prayer throughout. By August 14th, 4 men remained alive. Block Capo Hans Bach entered with a syringe of phenol. Kolbe raised his left arm and calmly presented his vein. He died at 12:50 p.m. Gajowniczek survived Auschwitz and lived to age 93. In 1982, Pope John Paul II canonized Kolbe as a martyr. The escaped prisoner whose disappearance triggered the punishment was later found drowned in a camp latrine. 10 men died for nothing. Ramree crocodiles. In early 1945, British forces captured Ramree town in Burma, cutting off approximately 1,000 Japanese soldiers. The isolated force refused to surrender and attempted an 8-mile crossing through dense mangrove swamp to rejoin their battalion. British forces sealed all exits with destroyers, strafed boats from the air, and encircled the perimeter. The swamp was a death trap of deep mud, scorpions, snakes, and disease. On the night of February 19th, saltwater crocodiles struck. These reptiles, Earth's largest, can reach 20 feet and weigh over 2,000 pounds. British naturalist Bruce Stanley Wright watched from a marine launch and described screams of wounded men crushed in the jaws of huge reptiles and the sound of spinning crocodiles in the pitch-black swamp. At dawn, vultures arrived. Of approximately 1,000 soldiers who entered the mangroves, Only 20 were taken prisoner alive. The Guinness Book of World Records listed it as the largest crocodile attack in recorded history. By the way, if you find this informative, I cover stories like these regularly. Consider subscribing if you'd like to see more. Thanks. Bari mustard gas. At approximately 7:30 p.m. on December 2, 1943, 105 German bombers swept over the port of Bari on Italy's Adriatic coast, completely unopposed. The harbor was crammed with Allied shipping. One docked vessel, the American Liberty ship SS John Harvey, carried a top-secret cargo of 2,000 bombs filled with approximately 100 tons of liquid sulfur mustard. The John Harvey took a direct hit and exploded, releasing mustard agent into the harbor water and a dense vapor cloud into the air. Hundreds of sailors jumped into the water to escape burning ships. The harbor was now a lethal mixture of fuel oil and dissolved mustard. Oil drove the chemical deep into men's skin. Rescuers wrapped survivors in warm blankets, unknowingly accelerating absorption. All 81 crew members who knew about the cargo had perished, so no one could warn the doctors. Symptoms appeared hours later: mysterious blistering, blindness, and respiratory failure. Chemical warfare specialist Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Alexander identified the cause and reported it. Churchill ordered the incident classified. British medical records were altered. The truth was not acknowledged until 1986. 83 servicemen died from mustard exposure. Alexander's autopsy findings revealed that mustard selectively destroyed white blood cells, an observation that became the direct foundation for nitrogen mustard chemotherapy, one of the first cancer treatments in history. Unit 731, Vivisections. In 1936, Lieutenant General Shiro Ishii established a secret biological warfare complex in Pingfang, Harbin, Manchuria, disguised as a lumber mill. Prisoners were called maruta, meaning logs. The facility held 200 to 400 subjects at any time. No documented survivor ever emerged. Experiments included deliberate infection with plague, cholera, and anthrax, frostbite studies, hypobaric chamber tests, and explosive fragmentation on living subjects. The most horrifying procedure was vivisection on fully conscious prisoners without anesthesia. Ishii believed anesthetic would contaminate samples. Researcher Okawa Fukumatsu later confessed on video that he vivisected a pregnant woman. As Soviet forces advanced in August 1945, Ishii ordered the facility destroyed and remaining prisoners executed. MacArthur's command granted complete immunity to all researchers in exchange for their data. Ishii died free in Tokyo in 1959. An estimated 10,000 to 14,000 people died inside the facility. Biological weapons deployed across China killed at least 200,000 more. HMS Barham explosion. On November 25, 1941, 26-year-old German submarine commander Hans Dietrich von Tiesenhausen maneuvered U-331 through a British destroyer screen in the Mediterranean, entirely undetected. He closed to under 750 meters and fired 4 torpedoes at the battleship HMS Barham. 3 struck amidships on the port side. The ship immediately listed to port. All power failed. Men ran along the tilting hull trying to reach the water. 4 minutes after the torpedo strike, a magazine fire reached the main 15-inch shell stores and detonated, obliterating the ship in a single blast. The entire sequence was captured on film by Pathé News cameraman John Turner from the deck of HMS Valiant. It remains one of the only filmed destructions of a capital warship. Of roughly 1,200 men aboard, 862 were killed, including Captain Jeffrey Cook. The Admiralty suppressed the sinking for weeks and instructed families to keep the news secret. Oryoku Maru, Hell Ship. On December 13, 1944, 1,619 Allied prisoners of war were loaded into 3 cargo holds of the Oryoku Maru in Manila Harbor. The ship carried no Red Cross markings. Hold 3 packed 800 men into a space with no light, no ventilation, and no sanitation. By the first night, 50 men had died of suffocation and heat stroke. On December 14th, carrier aircraft from USS Hornet attacked the convoy. Unaware prisoners were below. Japanese guards refused to open the hatches. On December 15th, a second attack forced guards to order prisoners to swim ashore. Guards opened fire on some of the swimmers. Survivors were herded onto a tennis court at the naval station and left in the open sun for days. The remaining prisoners were loaded onto 2 more ships. On January 9, 1945, American aircraft attacked the Oryoku Maru in Taiwan, killing 300 more. Across the full 3-ship voyage, more than 1,000 Allied prisoners died. Bataan boxcar deaths. On April 9, 1942, Major General Edward King surrendered 76,000 men on the Bataan Peninsula, the largest surrender in American military history. The men were already starving and riddled with malaria. Japanese guards marched them north toward Camp O'Donnell, 65 to 70 miles away, in temperatures exceeding 100 degrees. Prisoners received no food or water. Guards beat, bayoneted, and shot those who fell. After approximately 55 miles, survivors arrived at San Fernando and were loaded into steel boxcars. 100 men crammed into cars designed for 40. The doors were sealed. In the Philippine heat, the steel interior became an oven. Men died of suffocation and heat stroke standing upright. The dead could not fall because the living were pressed so tightly together. Captain William Dias, age 25, survived, and later escaped captivity to provide the first eyewitness account. He was killed in a training crash in December 1943, at age 27. An estimated 500 Americans and up to 10,000 Filipinos died during the march. At Camp O'Donnell, thousands more perished. General Masaharu Homa was executed by firing squad on April 3, 1946. Every April, the Bataan Memorial Death March is held at White Sands Missile Range, New Mexico. If you want more content like this, subscribe so you don't miss our uploads. See you next time.